Hello, it's me, Peter. Still real life, still in fancy shirts, although this is sadly for you if your thing is emojis. Each their own. I'm here to talk to you today about cricket and other random stuff for the next 15 minutes or so. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you'll find me just about interesting enough to stick with me through the whole video. Maybe even give it a like. Maybe even a share. Maybe, if you're feeling adventurous, a cheeky subscribe. Anyway, despite the climax of the English summer season drawing near and the World Cup Ashes, still in the not so distant future, there is plenty of cricket to chat and get through. We've got some early English Ashes news, we've got a bit of the IPL, and what is in my opinion some county championship absolute heroism. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the calm, soothing nature of my ASMR. No, cricket chat. Definitely cricket chat, not ASMR. I think. Maybe I've hit the nail on the head of something here. Cricket ASMR? Shout outs! First of all, thank you for all your support with views and subscriptions over the past week. I'm just dipping my feet into this whole video chat thing, and I know I'm still distinctly average at it, but your support is greatly appreciated nonetheless. And thanks. My first shout out is to a lad called Tomek, who gave me possibly the best review I've had so far. Apart from obviously Victorious Rufus's excellent talk review, which you should definitely check out in my England versus India second test review. Anyway, Tomek said I was, and this is from someone that doesn't know cricket that well, actually not that bad. High praise. Sadly, Tomek didn't put it on YouTube, so for that he doesn't get a semi-witty response. Ollie, yes, T20 is amazing. You've got a whole World Cup ahead of you, and I'm going to be chatting about it every single week, and I bet you can't wait, and you're positively shaking in your cotton white socks with excitement. Steve, I can see you, not in a creepy way, and yes, Stokes. If you're not sure what the comment is referring to, it is the catch that he made against South Africa on the first day of the 2019 World Cup. And if you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been. If you haven't seen it and you like cricket, you need to go onto YouTube and need to find it there. It is a great individual catch. The one that got Lewis Gregory out in the T20 finals day is a great team catch, if that's the right word. Kurt, I am sorry YouTube did not approve of your comment. I'm sure it would have brightened my day and been a revelation that only would have improved my life in general for years to come for the better. But please do try and comment again on this one and tell me why I'm so great. Greg, yes, the mascot race was an absolute banger, and if there is no mascot race at the final of the World Cup coming up, then I will be bitterly disappointed. To the extent where I'm going to hit my camera as I move into it. Yeah. Lastly, Ronald, but I assume your jumble of numbers and letters greatly contributed to the cricket debate I was trying to spark up in my last video. That's sarcasm, by the way. It didn't. Cricket chat. The Ashes is still far away, December 8th being the current start date, but we are starting off with a bit of news today suggesting that Joe Root is desperate to go to Australia but has not actually officially confirmed that he will be taking a place on the tour. The backstory to this is that England players are generally concerned with the conditions that they will be facing once they get to Australia. Some players, particularly those that will be taking part in the T20 World Cup, are expressing their worries of bubble fatigue. And that is they're going to be away from home, not just away from home, far from home, and unable to travel any further out than the restrictions around their squad. It's made worse by the fact that in Australia restrictions are particularly tight, and these are restrictions that not only are particularly tight, but that are tight and different by state, depending on where you go. It's making the likelihood of families being able to travel along with the squad ever less likely. And there are players like Josh Butler, who has a young family and has said that if this was a case, it would be a consideration for him and a factor that would inhibit him if he was going to choose to come with the England squad over to Australia. England will be presented with the conditions they are likely to face, or definitely will face, by the end of this week, and there's going to be a squad announcement for the Ashes next week, and in the meantime the players have to decide whether these conditions are acceptable to them and whether they are likely to fly to Australia with the rest of the squad. And to be honest, I get it. These players have essentially lived in bubbles for the last year just to get games on. These players have lived in bubbles just to get games on for us as well as for them to play their cricket. I know they're well paid, I know it's their job, but you do have to think of the human element. I don't think I could be away from my family for as long as some of these guys have been, especially when they are young parents, and leaving them behind to not see them for such a long time. To be honest, I'm half expecting some really high profile names to pull out of this series, and I think this then calls into question the integrity of the Ashes, the integrity of this series in particular. Is it going to be as an exciting series, as meaningful meaningful series if England, or Australia for that matter, are forced to name second string sides? We'll have to wait and see. But on a similar news path, we learned also this week that Moeen Ali has retired from the England Test side. He's played 64 games for England. He scored nearly 3,000 runs and took nearly 200 wickets since his debut back in 2014 against Sri Lanka. I think he was a real fan favourite, but perhaps not as favoured by the general England setup. At his best, Ali was elegant, he was destructive, but he averaged less than 30, and I think England always saw him, or it certainly shaped him, to be a bowling all-rounder rather than a batting one, although Moeen Ali perhaps himself might have seen it the other way around. Having said that, maybe England got it right because he is England's third highest spinning bowling wicket taker behind Derek Underwood and of course the legend that is Graham Swan. I think the uncertainty around his place that's been going on for years, particularly around the time earlier on this year when he contracted COVID and had to isolate, I think that uncertainty around his place in the squad has ultimately helped him make his decision. And indeed he did mention that that the process and the arduous tour coming and the schedule of Test cricket was a factor on his mind. This does, though, the departure of Ali leave a bit of a question on England's mind, and they leave them scrambling around looking for an all-rounder, considering Ben Stokes is still nowhere near confirmed for the winter. Does Jack Leach come back for the team to be a specialist bowler? It sacrifices a longer batting lineup for a genuine spinner that has experience abroad and experience against Australia. Does Mason Crane come back into the side? Does Matt Parkinson come into the side? I think it's hard to tell, especially considering that England's other all-rounder option, Sam Curran, was slightly lacklustre in the last few games for England. I think, though, what we can say, though, it's pleasing that Moeen Ali isn't retiring from England all round. We're going to still see him in the 50 over and T20 side. He is at his absolute best in the shorter form of the game. And speaking of the shorter form of the game, we've had the IPL for the last week, another weekend, and recently we've had 2 games a day. 2! I know! Staggering! Not so staggering though for Sunrisers Hyderabad, who are having what can only be described as a bit of a stinker this season, and will perhaps be glad when the series that was restarted recently finishes for good. They've only had their second win of the year. That came yesterday, Monday, when they in turn dented the chances of the Rajasthan Royals making the playoff. Rajasthan Royals obviously still have games to go, but that defeat is costly for them because it means that the destiny is starting to be taken out of their own hands, and they're going to have to rely on other teams to make mistakes. And speaking of which, Chennai and Delhi are not making mistakes. The destiny is firmly in their hands and they continue to look impressive. Chennai were involved in a really great game on Sunday against the Kolkata Knight Riders, one that went down to the very last ball, should I say. And I've got to have huge shout outs here for Jadeja for some real power hitting at the end. Took the game by a scruff of the neck and was hitting boundary upon boundary in the 19th over, sometimes considered the most important over of the game. And shout out as well to Sunil Narine, who almost saved the game, almost kept it as a draw despite the game looking dead. I think he took a wicket, possibly 2 in that final over, and only went for something like 4 runs, which is incredible. The Capitals, the Delhi Capitals, finalists last year, will be determined to make it back there, and are so far looking pretty good, pretty strong. They've won their last 2 games fairly comfortably. And other teams looking to be up there, like RCB, are back to winning ways, and they've been slowly creeping up the table, although they still have a negative overall run rate, and they will be looking over the last few games to turn that into positive for certain. The 2 teams that look like they're going to be competing for that last playoff slot, the KKR, Punjab Kings, they've been going well, but they've also been blowing hot and cold. Let's not forget, Kolkata Knight Riders are led by the English T20 and 50 over captain Owen Morgan. They're lucky, the Kolkata Knight Riders, that their blowing hot and cold has been copied almost by the Punjab Kings, who have been doing exactly the same. I, for one, can't wait to see who makes it to the playoffs, and of course, you'll hear my thoughts when those teams, or whoever the teams are, get there. My favourites for the overall title at the moment, I would probably have to go for Chennai Super Kings, because they've looked incredibly dominant since the restart. I want to do my last cricket talk of the video here by briefly talking about the county championships. I know there's been a lot of cricket played in the last month. I couldn't possibly review all of it, and if I did, I'd bore you, I'd bore myself, I'd bore my dad, I'd bore my mum. You get the picture. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to obviously congratulate Warwickshire for an excellent campaign, considering they didn't win a single game, I don't think, or at least almost had an opposite campaign to what they did this time last year in the previous county championship. But congratulations to them for winning the Division 1 title. I want to bring particular attention though to 2 games. One as a result, one is a game that is actually currently happening right now. And I want to focus your attention first of all to Essex versus Northamptonshire. The last game of the season for both of these teams. They've had a long campaign, they've slugged it out, and now here they are in cold, wet, murky September on green, tingy wickets that are horrible to bat on. Northants go first. And if you're unfamiliar with the county championship season, these are games that are normally meant to last for 4 days. Essex versus Northamptonshire barely, and I mean barely, makes it into the second day. Northants in the first innings, they go first, they batted first, they got bowled out for 81. That is correct, 81. This included 2 ducks, so 2 people getting 0, and only one score above 30. Now, they did bowl Essex out for 170, which granted isn't the best score either. But, not to be outdone, Northants then capitulated all over again. And not to be outdone by their first effort, or Essex's first effort, they capitulated all over again in such a disastrous way that they managed to get 45. All out in their second innings. 45. This includes 4 ducks, 4 zeros, and only 1 score above 20. Now, I'm not taking the mick here. I love it. This is what I love about the county championships, because you can have some monumental chases, some monumental scores, and some god-awful scores as well. But it gives hope to terrible cricketers like myself. It reminds terrible cricketers such as me that even the pros can get it horribly, horribly wrong. The second game that I want to bring your attention to is one that I said is currently happening. And I bring this to your attention for almost the exact same reason as before. It gives hope to average medium pacers like me that you can skittle batsmen for next to nothing. It allows us to laugh in the face of cricket and wish and hope for better days. I take you to Lancashire versus Warwickshire, the Bob Willis Trophy, the send-off to the English county season. And we are on day one. Last time I checked, bad light had affected play. But Lancashire had been bowled all out for 70. Now, if you think that's pretty bad, Lancashire, on the first morning, scored 12 runs and lost 6 wickets in that time. For those of you unfamiliar with cricket, 12 runs and 6 wickets is not a good score. Anyway, that is all from me today. Thank you for sticking around throughout this video. Please give it a like, please give me a subscribe, and please be kind enough to share this to all your mates, and even if people you don't like, because why not? Spread the love. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought about my thoughts. What did I miss? What did I get wrong? What could I do next? What might cricket ASMR look like? Please, I want to know. But we'll leave it there for today, and thank you. Until next time.